Have you ever wondered how you would fare in a real zombie apocalypse? Do you think you're gonna be able to set up a base, arm yourself with makeshift weapons, and maybe even thrive in a world ravaged by the undead? Well, that's what we were thinking coming into the zombie survival RPG called Project Zomboid. And the thing is, it humbles you very quickly. Despite the graphics, this game is not for the faint of heart. And in this video, you're gonna see exactly how our first few weeks in the game went, so you can decide for yourself whether this game is actually worth getting into. From building fortified bases to going on daring rescues and mowing large hordes of zombies, we're gonna try to survive for as long as we can at the end of the world. So without further ado, let's dive into the ultimate zombie sandbox RPG, Project Zomboid. Upon finishing the tutorial, which foreshadowed how the next 20 hours were going to look like, I created a server so my girlfriend could join in on the adventure. We went through the character creation process, which was frankly a little bit overwhelming with all the professions and traits that you could add to your character, but eventually we were ready to go. Meet Kaganath, a mid-30s lumberjack who still hasn't gotten over his My Chemical Romance phase, and one who is ready to tackle the zombie apocalypse. We then select a spawn location, having to choose between Muldrow, Riverside, Rosewood, or West Point, and because Muldrow was the first on the list, we decided to just spawn there. And here is when we made our first mistake. We'll get into it later, but for now, let's head into day 1 of the zombie apocalypse. From the tutorial, I knew how fast things could go down in the world of Project Zomboid, so my first thought upon spawning was to find anything I could use to smash zombies in the head. I looked inside the shelves in the kitchen, hoping for at least a knife, but the best I could find was this pan, so I guess we're rolling with that for now. While I was exploring the rest of the house, a balding zombie started knocking on my window, which was a big problem because if that window breaks, other zombies would start to just pour in. Mustering all my courage, I stepped out of the house for the first time, and I immediately got bitten, twice for good measure. With blood gushing out from my neck, I tried to fight, but the sound of the griddle pan attracted more zombies in the area, and mere seconds later, I've got a whole horde of them on my tail. Escaping to the forest was my only option, and with all the injuries I sustained from the extra bites I got during the chase, Kaganath died due to blood loss. Wow, not even 5 minutes in and I'm already dead. Thank you, Project Zomboid. And so a new hero is born, Nath Kaga, and he did better than expected. When a zombie broke his window, he dived into the ground to escape, and with a plunger he found in the bathroom, he whacked his dead wife in the head, giving us our first zombie kill. I then worked on clearing the house of the zombies who entered through the broken window, and after that I finally had some downtime to figure out where I was. My first objective in the game was to try to reunite with my girlfriend because we spawned in different places, and since she's directionally challenged, I ran around town for a good 30 minutes trying to find her and her base. After a while, I saw what I thought was a zombie shambling towards me, but it turns out it was just her, and she invited me into her house where we planned our next move. In the morning, we ventured outside of the safe house to look around the area and hopefully find a larger base. The house was nice, but it was in a place surrounded by a lot of zombies, and I was already aware that it was only a matter of time before one of them would come knocking on our window. The thick fog wasn't favorable, but we were eager for adventure, and so we walked around Muldrow going through various houses until all our walking attracted a couple of the undead. And here is when things went wrong for us. What started as a couple of zombies hopping some fences to try to get to us turned into a massive horde, and I had to shout at them to lure them away from my girlfriend, which unfortunately didn't work, and we ended up getting separated. We ended up taking different routes, but we decided to rendezvous near the church area. I arrived first, losing my pursuers along the way, and then I decided to wait for her in the small house that we cleared earlier in the day. Sadly, this story doesn't have a happy end. After hearing noises coming from the window, I worked on clearing some of the zombies lurking outside when I saw a very familiar face, but she wasn't the same as she was before. I had to put my girlfriend's character down, her keyring still stuck to her body. I then carried her to the church where I mourned her for a solid 15 seconds. My girlfriend spawned in with a new character, and of course, brought the whole horde with her. We both fought desperately, but having no clue how the game works as it was still our first time playing the game, we both just ended up dying. We made new characters after, but she ended up dying off screen again before we could even meet up, so at this point, we decided to end the first run, and opted to watch some tutorials first because we really had no clue what we were doing. So, fast forward after watching a couple tips and tricks videos and learning more about how the game works, here is our second attempt, which actually ended up being quite the journey. First thing we did was spawn in a new location called Riverside. Our previous spawn, Muldrow, was apparently a noob trap, so this new location should have a more forgiving zombie population, perfect for newbies like us. And so, welcome to day 1 of attempt number 2. I spawned in with my new character and I immediately crouched to stop zombies from seeing me as I didn't have any curtains. I then got myself a kitchen knife right on time as the first zombie started knocking on the window, and once she broke in, I went on the attack and easily got my first kill in the new server. Big W. At this point I was thinking that watching all those tutorials was super worth it, but after turning my back for just a couple of seconds, I returned to the kitchen swarming with the undead. And at this point, you already know how this ends. I died again, and slowly but surely it's getting hammered into me that this game is actually hard. And the only thing that will teach you how to survive in the apocalypse is experience. Finally, I spawned in a relatively safe place. This game ended up being a lot harder than we expected, and my girlfriend also kept dying off screen, so we decided that for this time only, I would teleport her to me so we could at least start the game together. But rest assured, we won't be abusing this feature. This character is Kaganath Johnson, nicknamed the Legend because of what he would achieve in this life. Kaganath started his day getting absolutely sloshed. But before this place turns into an actual base, we're gonna need a couple of things. First thing on the agenda is food. We're currently in some sort of a bar, and while there was alcohol, we needed some actual nutrition. Not to mention, my character was severely underweight, so we ventured outside to explore the surrounding area. It seemed that our luck had finally turned around because after smashing the zombie in the head and taking his clothes for myself, we found a laundromat and a grocery store right beside our new base location. So that solves our food problem, at least for the immediate future. We went back home after the successful raid, then I spent the rest of the night doing some workouts. We started day 2 by looting the rest of the shops near the grocery, which ended up being a clothing store, so we got us some new drip. I also acquired a watch from one of the zombies, so finally I could tell the time, which makes counting the days for this video a lot easier. At this point I was also eating every chance I got, and when we got back home, I decided that I wanted to work on the base's defenses to prevent what happened in our previous attempts. One thing we could do was put barricades on windows, but I actually didn't know how to do that as I wasn't getting any prompt to build it, so I thought that maybe my carpentry skill wasn't high enough. I got to working on leveling it by disassembling some of the furniture, but then I accidentally disassembled our wall, which ended up making this base pretty useless. Since there was a massive hole in one of our walls, we had to work on repair. But in order to get the wood to do that, we needed to chop trees, which required us to find an axe. Now, where could an axe be? I actually had no clue, so the plan was to explore the surrounding area to try and find one so we can make the base safe again. We found an abandoned farm south of the base, but this farm was really abandoned. There's literally nothing of note here, so we ended up going to the west side instead, which was actually a car park. Here, we not only found 2 duffel bags in the back of this red car, which is a massive upgrade for storage, but we also encountered this absolute unit of a zombie, wearing biker gear and a helmet, and I wanted that helmet. After his kind donation, we took a break in one of the houses, stole their TV for our base, and then put the TV in front of the broken wall to prevent zombies from entering. On the morning of day 3, my girlfriend finally got the car outside to work, and after siphoning gas from the nearby vehicles, we took our new ride for a spin around the neighborhood. Little did we know, we were about to head into the worst day of our lives. The car made a lot more noise than expected, and stopping in a suburban neighborhood was definitely the wrong choice. We fought off the horde for as long as we could, but unfortunately I got ambushed from my blind side, and Kaganath the Legend Johnson perished and turned along with all my gear. The rest of the day went like this. James Kaganath Roberts made the long trek back to the neighborhood and saw Kaganath's zombified body. He tried to fight him after seeing all that juicy gear, but the full armor made the zombie so tanky that James Kaganath got overwhelmed. Kaganath Chadius was supposed to be the ultimate Chad savior, But after the long trek, he tripped due to exertion, got bit, and died by blood loss. Strong Ganath Save Ganath made a strong effort to recover the items, and my girlfriend actually ended up killing the heavy armored Zomboid, but we both ended up dying anyway because there's just too many zombies around to properly loot the body. Even in death, the legend proves to be a massive problem. After 3 failed attempts, I was finally convinced to go back to base. And so, my new character, I'm so tired, found himself at the bar after a daring escape from the zombies. Losing all my gear and having multiple failed attempts in a row was devastating, and I was almost crying IRL at this point in the game. On the morning of day 4, I armed I'm so tired with a shovel, a nice long weapon that should be able to hold up against a horde. We slowly fought our way back to the neighborhood where my gear was, and this time we properly cleared the area of any zombies before looting the bodies. By noon, we've cleared most of the undead, and finally, I am back. Even getting an upgrade since we got a police vest from a zombified police officer. We went back home triumphant and walking amongst the carnage we created, and the rest of the day was spent reading, exercising, and organizing our loot. The only unfortunate thing is that my girlfriend started developing weird symptoms. Before moving forward, I'd like to first thank the sponsor of this video, Gamivo.com. Gamivo is an online platform for gamers where you can get your favorite games, including recently released ones like Black Myth Wukong or even Project Zomboid for the best prices. They've got a huge selection of games for all the major platforms, and not only that, but they've kindly prepared a 5% discount code for the viewers of the channel. That's right, if you head to the link down below in the pinned comment or the description of this video, it'll direct you straight to their website. Pick any game you want, and on the checkout page, make sure to type in code Kaganath to take advantage of the 5% off. In addition, if you want to have exclusive daily or monthly discounts and VIP access to a 24/7 live chat with their support team, go ahead and sign up for Gamivo Smart. It comes with everything I mentioned, plus pre-order priority and a free customer protection program. All of that for only $1.08 a month. They're also verified in Trustpilot, having amazing reviews, so you know that your purchases are protected. So if you want to get your favorite games at discounted prices and support this channel at the same time, head on over there with the link down below and make sure not to miss out on the 5% discount with code Kaganath. Let's get back to the video. Next day, I woke up with my girlfriend's character gone. I tried to look for her outside and found her walking aimlessly near the laundromat. There was something weird about her going on, but she wouldn't let me do a medical check on her, and when I stepped away for just a couple of seconds, I came back to a shambling corpse. I had to put her down. I went to the bar to drink away my sorrow when suddenly a person looking exactly like her entered behind the counter. So I guess my depressions already went away. This time we went back to our original goal of finding an axe, and this rolled over to day 6 as well. On day 6, we explored the eastern side of the town, which I think is supposed to be the Riverside Town Center. There were a lot of shops, but with such a high concentration of buildings, there were even more zombies. Overconfident, we explored and looted, filling up our inventory, making our bags very heavy. This in turn exhausted our characters, which resulted in me getting bit. And then she also gets bit. So we had no choice but to run as daytime came to an end and darkness started creeping in. With our bodies exhausted, we had to sneak around large groups, but eventually when they started getting close and we weren't able to run, we had no choice but to try to lose them in the thick of the forest, blocking most visibility in all directions. We got back home after an intense escape, disinfected our wounds and treated them with bandages. However, we had too many injuries and the risk of infection was very high, so when day 7 came, we did the only thing we could at this point. We took off all our gear, ran to the riverside, and took as many of them as we could before turning ourselves. That night, a new pair of survivors wandered into our old home. They took our gear and seemed to have continued where we'd left off. His name was John Zomboid. Day 8. There was still a massive hole in the wall, and we still needed that axe. We decided to again explore the west side where the legend died, but this time we were going to go as far as we could. As we continued our exploration on the outskirts of the city, we started hearing the dreaded helicopter. Now, you might think that's a good thing, but the helicopter doesn't actually do any rescues or supply drops. Instead, it just chases you. And because it's very loud, it also attracts all zombies in the surrounding area towards your location. Luckily, we were able to take shelter inside of a house, but we had to defend our location from the undead pouring in from the surrounding area. That night, we had to sleep with one eye open. Once the helicopter was gone, my girlfriend started working on the shitty car we found so we could go home. But against her best wishes, I drove it even further. I wanted that axe. On day 10, our inventory and even the trunk of the car was full. The car was also starting to break down, and fearing that we might get stuck hours away from home, we decided to go back, filled with everything we could ever need except the tools we set out for. Guys, I was literally going crazy over this axe. That hole in the wall has been there for 10 days and has been staring at me whenever I sleep. I just wanted a safe base. Day 11. We found it. South of the bar, just a little past the farm that we found on day 2, was a broken down car filled with all the tools we've been wanting for the past 10 days. We got a whole toolbox, nails, and the dreaded axe just a 5-minute walk away from our base. Why is God so cruel? And you know what's funnier? Further ahead was a whole ass factory. Now this one was a little bit dangerous to explore, with one side having no lights and it was filled with zombies, so we took a break, and on day 12 we took everything we got back to our base where we could finally start upping our defenses. The rest of the day was spent putting the axe to use. I had my girlfriend collect logs while I worked on repairing the wall, and I even added some barricades to our windows, a project I abandoned because I found the whole thing tedious. Day 13. We were getting neck pains from sleeping on wooden chairs. So you know what that means? It's time to make the place look cozy, and a bed was the first thing we needed. We had two options for a bed. Either we craft a mattress, which needs sewing materials and 5 pillows, or we steal a bed after leveling carpentry. We went back to the town center to see if the shops there had any of the materials we needed, and I had a very close call. You really can never let your guard down in this game. One mistake is all it takes and your character is back to square one. On day 14, I triggered a house alarm, unleashing a horde of zombies in the little cul-de-sac that we were looting. This gave me flashbacks to Kaganath the Legend's life, but this time we were more experienced. And so, after fighting for the whole day, we cleared the area of all the zombies and were finally able to relax. Until the next morning. So, the lights just went out. All our food in the fridge was now going to rot, and because there's no more electricity, there's no more running water as well. As for how to solve these issues, I didn't really know at this point in the game, and I still couldn't move beds due to low carpentry, so we settled for these nice couches instead. Day 16 was more of the same. I was moving bed parts individually because they kept breaking, but we did encounter a familiar zomboid. James Kaganath Roberts, who was killed by the legend, was finally laid to rest. Pressed F to pay respects. Day 17, we're back in the cemetery. I found a shed, which luckily was unlocked, and found a solution to all our problems. A generator, but this needed gas, lots of them. So our next objective was to find ourselves a consistent source of fuel, both for the cars and the generator. My girlfriend got a van from nearby to work, and we loaded the generator in its trunk before heading back home. She then proudly showed me the campfire she made, which was cool. And then on day 18, after appreciating our growing car collection, we decided to explore the big blue building at the center of the town, which I've actually been eyeing for the past few days, but was kinda intimidated because that place is filled to the brim with zombies, and going in unprepared is basically a death sentence. And I was right. This place is hell. It ended up being a school, which is cool if not for the insane amount of zombies we had to clear before we could even explore the place. It was incredibly worth it though, as the place contained a library with all the books we needed to level up our skills, which is gonna help us progress at a massively faster pace. Clearing the school took us until evening, so it wasn't until day 19 when we got everything we needed. Aside from the books, I also got the remaining bed parts for our bed, and on day 20 I was finally able to assemble it. So no more neck pains for us. And then I also slapped the school poster on the wall to make the place feel more homely. The next day was spent reorganizing the base and some of the furniture, and then on day 22 after our daily morning workout, we headed up north to the river to see if that could be the solution to our water problem. Which technically it was, since we found these huge water barrels just chilling in the bait shop. I made note of it before continuing our drive down the riverbank. As we continued driving, we realized that we were starting to get close to the town center where the school was, but the area was still quiet. No zombies to be seen, which was unusual in this part of town. We parked the car in the parking lot, then checked out the huge building to its side. It's a nicer looking, modern 2-floor bar in the town center, but tucked in a quiet corner. It's got a huge kitchen, multiple bathrooms and storage, plus the river was literally just right behind it. This was gonna be our second base. We cleared some straggling zombies around the new bar and then went back home to prepare for the move. The next day, it was raining pretty hard. We cleared more of the surrounding area, this time the apartment block adjacent to our building, and as we cleared more zombies towards the school, we found a tool shop. Holy crap, this is actually the best base location ever. After more clearing, we spent our first night in the new base on one of the couches, and then in the morning, we moved more of the stuff we needed, cleared a path by the riverside for easier driving, and even connected the generator to the side of the building. And after that was done, we worked on making the town center safer by driving around and killing the horde that followed. The only problem was that this was terribly inefficient with our current weapons, so when we got back to base the next day, we decided that it was time to look for the big guns. A military compound was somewhere on the map, and if we are able to find it, we will actually be invincible. And so, we supplied our ambulance with as much food and tools as we can bring. For the first time, we were set to leave Riverside. If there was one thing that's constant throughout our playthrough of Project Zomboid in the past 25 days, it's that despite experience and preparation, when the world is desolate and filled with only the dead, one small mistake can be the end of everything you've worked for. As we were driving off into the sunset, excited for what the future will bring, this happened. That killed our engine. I tried to get it to start repeatedly, but the horde was already banging on our windows. And in a split-second decision that would cost us everything, I opened the car door to try to escape. And that was the small mistake I made. My girlfriend was dragged through the window, and I was mauled on the side of the road. So that was Project Zomboid. Was it worth it? Absolutely. It's been a while since I've been this addicted to a game, and while you only saw 20 hours of gameplay, we're actually about 60 hours in at the time of writing this video. It may not look like much at first glance, but trust me, there's a lot of depth in this game, and with a very active mod scene, the potential for this game is unlimited. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more, and also thank you to our patrons for continuously supporting the channel. If you'd like to see more of these videos, consider supporting me over there as it does help a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.